Hi, Steve, here in my workshop in Bellevue, Nebraska. This is the assignment number 2 on the lathe, lesson number 6. And I'm starting here just to show you here, if you have your conventional headstock, for this assignment, you need to make sure that your speed dial is already down here at C or lower when you start, because when we turn on the power to this, we don't want to be changing our speed once we turn it on. So just make sure you have that set before you start the assignment. If your stock is already mounted, like you see over here on my Mark 7, you're going to have to remove that stock in order to adjust your speed on the conventional one and then put it back on. So here we are getting ready to do a roughing, which means we're going to turn this square stock into round stock. And we've got our tool rest set here 1/8 of an inch away from the edge here, so that when it turns freely. We've got our height on here set to be exactly the same height as where these two corners are. And we've got everything locked into place. So we're going to go through and do our 7-step safety check before we start. So we'll check our quill lock, that's locked. We've got our carriage lock. We have our motor lock. We have our height lock is locked. We've got these here on our tool rest tight, so it can't move whatsoever. We've got our base is firmly on the floor. The machine will not move. And we have nothing on our auxiliary spindles. And of course today, I'm going to be using a full face shield, but make sure that you use some eye protection if you don't have the full face shield. And of course, our machine is already set up, same speed as we had last time. Actually, I don't think we'd had our speed set up last time. So let's go through how we do that. So we will have our machine, when we turn it on, at our main screen, we're going to select the lathe. We're going to select hardwood, up to 2 inches, rounding, and it should say 950 RPM on yours. If you have the C setting on your conventional headstock, that is 950 RPM. So now we're ready to start turning. And we're going to use on this assignment, we're going to use the 1-inch spindle gouge. And to start with, I want to show you the position you're going to have your chisels in, your chisel in when you do this. And let me put my face shield up there out of the way for a moment. So we're going to, when you put your rest on, you want to put the tip right here on the tool rest. And so that when it's initially turning, it's not going to be hitting that. And then you're going to hold your hand like this. This finger here is what's going to determine making it stay right against that ledge of that tool rest. And then our thumb grabbing here, just like this. And then we want to have the tool held level, just like this. And this is the scraping action that we're going to be doing almost all of your cuts for doing the lathe turning on the spindles. Now, there's another action called scraping, which you'll learn later in the advanced course. That takes a little bit more skill, a little more practice. So on these assignments, we're just going to do a scraping action, which means that we're going to, this will literally scrape across the stock as it turns. All right, so let's put on our full face shield here, and let's get started. So pull it in gradually until you start to hear it. You'll hear it and you'll feel it at the same time. And you'll see those tips flying off. In each pass, we just advance it a little bit further into the stock. Now when you're doing this, if you jam this in the stock too far, it'll stop the stock completely from turning. If that happens, pull your tool back away, it'll still continue to start turning again. And as we go along, we just keep advancing it back and forth. Now you notice right here, we're just using the tip of this tool right now. So we're not using the full edge. So over time, the tip is going to wear more than the edges. So as we do this more, as you get comfortable doing this, you might want to start using some of the other parts of the tip of the chisel by just turning it slightly, like I just now did, and that'll get another portion of the tool. And then I can do the same thing going the other direction. I can turn it back over here and get another portion of the tool. And of course, we want to turn this until it's, see, I just jammed it in too far and it stopped. But I pulled it right back out again. Now, if you're a beginner, the safest way to do this and the most comfortable probably for you is just to do what I'm doing right now. And that's just going back and forth, just like this. And you can do all of your turning this way. There's no problem at all doing it this way. You don't have to learn those advanced techniques. Just focus on getting down this action right here, what I'm doing. And getting the feel of the tool. Now, as you notice, in turning this, the space between that turning stock and this tool rest is getting larger. Now, we want that to be between an eighth of an inch and a quarter of an inch. And we're getting pretty close to a quarter of an inch right now. So we're going to stop now and adjust that tool rest. All right, you can see we've taken off some off the corners here. Still got some flats, but we're going to readjust that tool rest now so it's closer. Loosen that one, loosen this one, and just pull that in till it's about there. Lock this one. Get that parallel and lock that one. Test and go back to work. Now, the reason we want to have that tool rest close to that stock is because we want to have as much support underneath this tool as we possibly can. You'll get the smoothest cuts, the less chatter. Now, by chatter, I'm talking about if you have that tool rest too far away, you may get chatter on your tool, which means that the tool would bounce up and down on top of the tool rest, and we don't want that to happen. No big deal if it does, but you're going to get smoother cuts doing it this way. Now, there's another action I can do here, which you don't need to worry about learning, but I'll just show it to you here. And that is, I could take and, you notice I can twist this a little, my tool a little bit, and I get a little bit different surface on the end of my tool. And if I do it the other way, I'll get more of the edges of the tool being used, rather than just that tip. Now, pretty soon here, I'm going to test this for a round. And the easiest way to do that, one way you can stop the machine and just look at it. That is one way. And as a beginner, you may want to just do that. But if you're comfortable, you can take your tool and just set the back of it right on top of this stock. And if it's round, that tool will not move. If it bounces up and down, you know that your stock is not round. So let's throw that right now. Yep, see, it's bouncing. So it's not round yet. So we'll have to take off some more. And you see what these shavings are looking like there? These shavings should look just like you see here. Now, towards the end of this, just before we're finished, I will show you a shearing cut, just so you can see what it looks like and what it'll do. And you'll see that the what comes off will be much finer than what you're seeing on here now. And one of the things you want to do when you're doing your cut is look down at the distance between your tool rest and your stock. You should be seeing the same distance at each end between your stock and your tool rest. If that's not the same, then you're not cutting your cylinder the same all the way down. You're making it tapered. So as I look at this right now, I can see right now that this end down here, needs more off, because I've got the tool rest is closer at this end than what it is to the other. So now I'm going to start getting a little more exact. Okay, we're just about to get a little bit there. It's bouncing a little bit there, but over here it's nice and smooth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be a little more careful about the placement. I know that this end here is round, so I'm going to keep my tool right there, hold it there, and just slide it down. And that should make sure that my cylinder is the same diameter all the way down. And we should start cutting more as we get down here. You can see that starting to cut more down here, because this end needs more off. Now when we do this, we just keep that tool still and just slide it. Okay. That is round. All right. So now I told you I would show that shearing action at the end. On the shearing action, we're going to have this bevel almost right on the edge. When we're scraping, we're like this. When I shear, I'm going to have the bevel like this. So I'm just shearing off a small slice. And the way I do that, instead of holding it level like this, is I just drop my back in. Or I just rest it on there so it's not cutting, and now I'll raise my back tool until it just starts to cut. And now I'm getting a fine dust come off. And I'll slide that down. And I'm done. Okay. And you can see we've got a nice smooth cylinder all done. So that is your second assignment. On your next assignment, we're going to take this cylinder and we're going to reduce the size down to 1 3/4, and we'll use the skew. That's this tool right here. We'll also do a scraping action, but this is you'll be impressed with what the skew can do and how this can smooth this and get it down what it needs to be. So that's the end of this assignment. See you on the next one.